The solar system we know today is made up of 9 planets. First Mercury, then Venus, Earth, and Mars, Jupiter, then Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and finally, distant Pluto. Yes, I still consider poor Pluto a planet. In the ancient planetary system, they only knew of 4: Saturn, Venus, Mars, and Earth. Saturn is seen as a huge stationary body at the celestial pole, the single point in the sky where everything rotates around it. So from our point of view, it never moves. Saturn, Venus, Mars, and Earth all move together in a line as the group simultaneously revolves around the sun. This planet group circles around its own center of gravity, and they're extremely close together, close enough to interact with each other gravitationally and electrically. Venus can be seen right in the middle of Saturn, and Mars is right in front of Venus, and they all appear as giants in the sky because all 4 planets are pretty close together, relatively speaking. Jupiter is there too, but it's behind Saturn, so you can't see it. The entire system is moving through a diffuse cloud of gas illuminated by our current sun. What that means for us is that there is no clear distinction of night and day, just an ever-present, never-changing, hazy dimness. At some point, gaseous material or dust stretches from Venus outward toward Saturn. At first, these radiating streams would appear as either a 3 or 4-pointed star-like pattern. Over time, the dust cloud we're floating through dissipates, and a more clearly defined cycle of night and day begins. And now we can also see a crescent of light on the edge of Saturn, created from the light from the sun. And as the Earth rotates on its axis, the crescent visually turns around the polar center. But things start to change. The somewhat stable streams coming from Venus toward Saturn start to multiply, signs of changes to the electrical connection between the two, as Mars starts to get pushed around by energy fluctuations known as resonance. And keep in mind, too, that the look of the electrical streams between Venus and Saturn would change depending on what part of the world you're looking at it from. This differential might change the interpretation by human eyes from a flower to a clamshell. As Mars's orbit starts to wobble and oscillate back and forth between us and Venus, it appears to come down from its central position as it moves closer to the Earth. It returns to its spot in the middle, then comes down even more, growing bigger to us here on Earth every time it does. When it visually drops below Venus, we can now see a contrail of material stretching between Mars and Venus. As it continues to descend and actually get closer to us, a contrail of gas and dust begins to make its way towards Earth. Venus and Mars both start moving side to side, the trail of gas, ice, and debris spiraling between the two planets. Eventually, the spiraling material gathers into a ring around Venus. As our whole little system moves through space, that appearance of the band changes dramatically. Mars continues bouncing up and down or getting closer and retreating, with trails of atmosphere and other material stretching closer toward the Earth with each descent. Eventually, Mars gets close enough that this material trail reaches the Earth with Armageddon-like effects. When the dust literally settles, we see Mars moving away again, but taking a stream of gas and dust with it, making it look like the apex of an illuminated column. The band encircling Venus gradually opens. The 4 streams of comet-like material start to radiate from Venus toward Saturn again, and the material stretching from Mars to Earth retreats. But the once unmoving configuration is no longer stable, and collapses, with Saturn moving off, revealing Jupiter for the first time to the eyes watching from here on Earth. Surprise! Another huge planet! Not surprisingly, these celestial events are followed by a period of great confusion and upheaval. After all, we just witnessed the king of our skies disappear. And as Venus is moving around looking for her new place in the sky, the band and radiating material between her and Mars collapses, spiraling and scattering into whirling patterns. The linear configuration, now visually dominated by Jupiter, actually comes back for a while, but again falls apart with all 5 planets, including Earth, moving into a new, more remote equilibrium. What an epic idea. And I know what you're thinking. No way. This is way too far out there to possibly be real. Show me some evidence. Obviously, we have no direct evidence of this series of events. None of us were there to witness it, and those that were didn't have the technology to record it. All we have is circumstantial hearsay. So far. But arguments have been won on circumstantial evidence. So what if I told you there's more? To find it, we just have to turn our attention back to Mars. For a long time, scientists thought Mars was a geologically dead rock with a worn down surface. But since we started sending probes over there in the 60s, we've been pleasantly surprised by the interesting features found there. Now, geologists look at the many mountains and valleys and apply the same geological principles that apply to Earth, like the mountains must have been formed by volcanoes. But the formations we see there do not match our understanding of volcanoes. So either the geological rules are different on Mars, or they were built by a different force. Mars has a very famous and easily recognizable feature, Valles Marineris. Valles Marineris is a canyon system larger than any canyon on any planet or moon that stretches almost a fifth of the way around the entire planet, longer than the distance from New York to San Francisco. And if you're thinking that this is the result of erosion, think again. The entire valley is a depression that is missing 3 million cubic miles of material. Where did that go? There is no evidence of any water outflow pattern. And a part of the canyon complex, Hibis Chasm, is completely self-contained, and even NASA admits it was not formed by erosion. Not to mention the myriad of what looks like scoop marks all over, like someone just shoveled out some dirt and carried it away. Earthly geologic forces did not sculpt this planet. So what did? Well, by this point, I would hope that you wouldn't be too surprised to learn that the unique surface features of Mars have already been replicated in a laboratory. Yep, prolonged electrical arcing makes almost identical channels and side channels as the ones visible in Valles Marineris. And where did the 3 million cubic miles of dirt go? Well, some would have undoubtedly rained back down onto the surface, which could be why we see miles upon miles of rocks strewn about like a debris field. But some would have been ejected into space. Remember the trails of material that stretched from Mars to either Venus or Earth when Mars got too close to either one? Well, an electrical connection of that size would have caused the massive electrical arcing needed to cause the kind of damage we see at Valles Marineris. And the gravitational connection could have carried Martian debris all the way to the Earth. And we have the Martian rocks on Earth to show for it. Interestingly enough, almost all cultures refer to their hero warrior, their version of the Mars archetype, as having a scar. Some stories even as detailed to say the scar came from lightning. But Valles Marineris was completely unknown until the Mariner 9 orbiter discovered it in 1972 as it passed over the Martian surface. So, how did all of those ancient cultures who existed well before the invention of the telescope know that Mars had a scar? unless the planet were close enough for them to see it with the naked eye. Just some extra food for thought. And just in case you thought that the ideas I have presented in this video today is all the proponents of electrical universe theory have to offer, it's not. Unlike modern cosmology, that is considered the queen of the sciences, wielding an iron fist over the branches of science that fall under her umbrella, where if you step out of the circle of presently accepted theory that she governs, you can lose your entire career. The EU community is different. Back in the early 2000s, two gentlemen, David Talbot, an American mythologist and author, and Wal Thornhill, an Australian astronomer, physicist, electronics expert, author, and international lecturer, both of whom, by the way, were hooked on Velikovsky's work, came together and spearheaded a mission to bring the EU model of the universe to the world. The tip of that spearhead, founded in 2004, is the Thunderbolts Project. The Thunderbolts Project is the largest repository of information on all aspects of EU. The project is an extremely collaborative group of contributors, both past and present, from all areas of science, all coming together to add their knowledge to the growing body of information needed to begin a paradigm shift. Not necessarily to ditch the current standard model of cosmology, but to open up the lines of communication so that all ideas can be heard and studied on their merit. Since the founding and outreach of the Thunderbolts Project, David, Wal, and the third leg of the EU juggernaut tripod, Donald Scott, a retired professor of electrical engineering from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, have consulted on something called the Sapphire Project. The Sapphire Project's goal is to test the theories that the sun is an electrical body by building one in a lab. And just a little hint of their progress? None of their experiments so far have ruled it out.